In episode 3 of The Fall of the House of Usher, which was titled Murder in the Rue Morgue, which was described as the first modern detective story by Edgar Allan Poe, as Camille plays detective in this episode to find what her sister Vic was up to when it came to her experiments with those monkeys, and well, she found out. As Camille was responsible for her family's publicity in this episode, she conspired to spin the controversy in her family's favor, all while exposing the grim details of her sister's experiments. We opened the episode with Pim on the scene of Perry's death party, and with the Usher's family connections, he was able to gain access to explore the murder scene without being accompanied by police. As we find out why they call him the Brim Reaper, he walks across all the dead bodies like it's just a regular day, as he comes across Perry's bodies and takes his phone and notices the cameras in the building, but also he comes across a survivor. As we learned that the tanks connected to the sprinklers were indeed hazardous material that they were hiding to avoid EPA fines, but also charges that came with that, but Perry unfortunately didn't pay attention and also hired a nobody that didn't test it out first. Horrible accident, but the one thing that still doesn't add up, what happened to the waiting staff? Why did they leave before it all went down? Now, we know as an audience that it was Verna and the possession she had over the people, but Roderick, Madeline, and Pim are under the impression that this was all a setup. Now, the story goes for now that the cover-up will be that they're going to blame someone else at the party and not Perry. Meanwhile, Pim's going to look into that camera footage. As we learn that the survivor is indeed Morella, as Pim is tasked with giving him the script on if anyone asks you, this is what happened. As the rest of the kids learn of the tragic news, we see Roderick doesn't want his daughter, who normally handles the PR messes, he doesn't want her anywhere around this story. But she comes up with the genius idea to have the public give them the sympathy angle, as she's going with the whole tagline of America's Fallen Prince. This is yet another nod to the episode before, which was The Mask of the Red Death, which that story by Edgar Allan Poe focused on the prince, Prospero. The angle is something they can use during this time of their trial, and the grieving process is a way to keep the media attention from them. This scene was the perfect illustration of the key focus of this episode being Camille and seeing her skills on full display. This is exactly how this family has been able to keep their billion-dollar company going for all these years, as we see it playing out on the news with Dupin reminding people that Ushers are still on trial, but a reporter spins his word to make it seem that Perry's death was justice for their crimes. As Fox News makes Camille happy, she still has her eyes on the prize for that bounty, as her assistants tell her that there is definitely something going on with her sister, more involving this issue with missing animal livestock, and the rumor is that Vic is swapping out the animals and falsely reporting the numbers, doing some dirty work off the clock. Now, this was a quick scene, but an important one nonetheless, as Camille's assistants tell her that they're sorry for her loss, and if you look at the look on her face here, it says it all. Some of these family members don't care if they lose someone close to them. They almost don't have this humane side to them, and this moment doesn't shake Camille at all. Cut to this moment where we see Vic, who's now back in the office, but we see her having this moment to herself where it actually shows that she's affected by losing her little brother. But man, it doesn't last long, as she walks out of the office and she bumps into Verna. Now, Vic shows some level of compassion and promises Verna, who's acting as this person named Pam who's having a heart condition, she tells her that she's going to make sure that her paperwork is seen by all the main doctors. Just when you think that an Usher member actually cares and she's going to take care of this paperwork, it is not the case, as she immediately takes pictures of this person's medical records and she sees her as a perfect candidate for her human trials. Cut to this brother-sister bonding moment as Napoleon gets prepped by Camille while on drugs. Now, we get some interesting backstory on both characters, as Leo met his father when he was 18, Perry met him when he was 16, and Camille met their father at the age of 20. Learn that Leo is actually the only Usher that's not tied into the direct family business, as he actually is a video game developer, or if you ask Camille, he pays people to make video games for him because the Ushers don't make anything. Cut back to the conversation between Roderick and Dupin. When life throws lemons at you, you don't just make lemonade, you make a multi-billion lemonade company and patent it. That's the Usher way. This was easily one of my favorite moments of this show so far, as we get the classic Mike Flanagan monologue, and this is one of many that we have in this incredible episode. Ben tells Roderick that Perry actually had a knockoff brand of letadone in his system when he died called Monty. As Roderick wasn't aware of this finding, we get this really effective jump scare where Camille is behind him grabbing his shoulders, and it doesn't stop there, because we get the first, for me, legit jump scare that actually got me, which is when Roderick gets a refill and she pops up in his face, the most effective jump scare so far in this show. We learned that letadone was given to Roderick. Remember, the Ushers don't make things, as he was just the middleman, it wasn't his. As we cut to middle-aged Roderick busting into Rufus's office because Rufus took his patent idea from him. He did get $500 out of this, but as Rufus puts it, he should use this moment and learn from this, and maybe, just maybe, he'll be next door to him. So we see not only got the $500, he also got a 15% raise, and he now moved up to the 4th floor. All this good news doesn't impress his sister Madeline, who reminds him of their days when they were orphans, as Madeline tells him how to play the long game, not charging right at your target, but instead stand next to them, learn from them, and then eventually stab them in the back. As we do eventually find out that Pym discovers that Verna was the only one unaccounted for at Perry's party, as I believe this is their first entry point to figuring out who's killing all his kids. Cut to Leo waking up from his night of grieving with all those drugs. He has scratches all over his face and he's covered in someone else's blood, as he thinks that he might have killed his boyfriend, but no, he actually killed his boyfriend's cat and brutally murdering him by stabbing him to death. Just like any Usher family member would do, he gets rid of everything before his boyfriend wakes up, as Leo makes it seem that the cat accidentally was let out. Back at the hospital, we get a quick scene of Lenore witnessing her mother ripping off all her bandages. One would assume that she's never going to be the same again. Setting it up with Vic calling Verna, aka Pam, about her paperwork, as she invites her into a very exciting new trial to help her with her heart condition. Just as this is happening, Tamara Lane's sex toy fantasy woman doesn't arrive, but instead, Verna, playing another role as Candy, is covering for her. My goodness, she gives them an award-winning performance, and she gets a little bit personal as she mentions Perry, and almost performs like she's actually Bill's wife, and Tam, she's loving every second of this. As we see Camille arrive at a secure location, and she isn't let in by this new security guard, who yet again is played by Verna. Just like she did with Perry, she tries to warn her that she can go about doing this another way, but Camille doesn't listen. As Camille starts to take photos of all these poorly treated monkeys, we see one of the cages opens up. Verna walks in. The first thing she asks is, why does she hate Vic so much, as she goes into the long documented cruel history of experiments on animals. Now Camille at this point is pissed off and she threatens to kill the security guard, until Verna jumps on the table like a wild animal and begins to start to move like one as well. Verna slowly opens her shirt. We see that she has the marks on her chest and she begins yelling, and it's at this point that you realize that she's actually swapped bodies with the monkey. Verna, as his monkey, tells Camille that she was supposed to go out in a more peaceful and quieter manner in her bed, but she didn't listen. And hey, it's not personal, as Camille just says screw it. She ultimately takes the picture of this monkey, but unfortunately, she gets her face beat in to death by this monkey. As we cut to the next morning and the employees walk in to find Camille's face and body has been mauled by this Caesar from Planet of the Apes, what an incredible ending. Now, to make the connection to the title of this episode to Edgar Allan Poe's work, besides the detective angle, this short story, interestingly enough, was the first appearance by the character Dupin. As many saw this as the first big detective before Sherlock Holmes was even famous, as his story followed him in Paris as he attempts to solve the mystery of the brutal murder of 2 women, which connects to the Camille character trying to find out what her sister was up to with the experiments of these monkeys. Now, with Perry gone and Camille gone, we now know who's next to die, and that is Leo. Some of my main questions after this episode. Now, I assume that Morella's still alive, but what will come of her character moving forward? How long does Roderick play the long game with his boss, and is Madeline the reason why he didn't stay together with his wife? As The Fall of the House of Usher episode 3 is in the books, this to me was the best episode so far. Kay Siegel, who we know is the wife of Mike Flanagan and works with him a lot, she always delivers when she gets time to shine. Whether it's her leading role in Hush, or her incredible episode as Theo as The Haunting on Hill House, the incredible performance that she gave in Midnight Mass, and this one added to the resume. She was fantastic. She's one of my favorite characters in anything that she's ever in with Mike Flanagan, and I loved her character so much, and I thought she was phenomenal in this as Camille, which if I'm being honest, I'm kind of disappointed that she's gone so early, but also I'm just very surprised to see what they do next, because she played the cleanup woman so well in this show. She was quick to throw in insults, she knew how to get her hands dirty, and she was just one of my favorite characters, which makes me think, what will they do now? Who will replace her? But also, why does she hate Vic so much? I'm really excited to see where that angle goes. But going to the whole Vic and Camille, Verna playing the various roles in this episode, and that moment when she did the body switch with the monkey, she has been fantastic, and this show has been just excellent, and I'm very excited to see what happens next. Thank you all for watching this breakdown of episode 3. Consider hitting the like button if you enjoyed this breakdown and recap. Share this video, but also share your thoughts of this episode in the comments below. Click the video on the screen now, or click the link in the description of this video to see my next breakdown of episode 4. Consider subscribing today. You all are awesome. Hope you're staying safe, and I'll see you all on the next video.